as always.
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for asking, Jenny. I woke up early, I did some stretching, and I even reviewed my notes for today's lesson 2 times already. How about you? How are you feeling this morning?
Honestly, James, I am feeling a little bit tired, but also very excited because today's topic is something that I personally struggle with a lot, so I think many of our listeners will understand exactly how I feel.
That is a great point, Jenny, and it is actually the perfect introduction to today's topic. Today, we are going to talk about how to understand native English speakers when they talk fast, because I know this is a very common problem for many English learners.
Oh my goodness, yes, this is my biggest problem. Sometimes I watch a movie or I listen to someone talking on the street, and the words just go so fast that my brain cannot keep up. It feels like the words are all mixed together into one big sound.
I understand that feeling completely, Jenny, and I want to tell everyone listening today that this is completely normal. Even very good English learners feel this way sometimes, so please do not feel bad if you also have this problem.
That makes me feel a little bit better, James. Thank you. So, can you explain to us and to our listeners why native speakers talk so fast in the first place? Is it just to make our lives difficult?
No, it is not to make your life difficult, I promise. Native speakers talk fast because English, like many languages, has a natural rhythm, and in this rhythm, some words become shorter, some words connect together, and some words almost disappear.
Wow, that sounds complicated. Can you give us a simple example, James? I think an example will help me and also help our listeners to understand this idea better.
Of course, Jenny. For example, when a native speaker says, "What are you doing?" in fast, natural speech, it often sounds like, "What you doing?" The words what and are and you connect together and become one shorter sound.
Oh, wow, that is so true. I remember hearing that exact phrase before, and I was so confused because I did not learn the word watcha in my textbook. I thought it was a completely new word.
That happens to so many learners, Jenny. Do not worry. This is called connected speech, and it is one of the biggest reasons why fast English feels difficult to understand, even when you already know all of the individual words.
Okay, so this connected speech thing is our first big challenge. James, since you are always so organized, I am sure you have some helpful tips for us today. Can you share your first tip with our listeners?
Yes, absolutely, Jenny. My first tip is this. Instead of trying to understand every single word, try to listen for the important key words in the sentence. Usually, these are nouns, verbs, and important adjectives because these words carry the main meaning.
That is interesting, James, but honestly, sometimes I feel so much pressure to understand every word, and then I miss the whole sentence because I'm still thinking about one word I didn't catch. Does that happen to other learners too?
Yes, Jenny, this happens to almost every learner, and it is actually a very common mistake. When you stop and think about one missing word, you lose focus, and then you miss the next 3 or 4 words as well.
Oh no, that sounds exactly like what happens to me. So what should I do instead, James? Please save me from this problem.
Don't worry, Jenny, I will help you. Instead of stopping when you miss a word, just let it go and keep listening for the next key word. Your brain can often understand the general meaning from the other words in the sentence, even if you miss one small word.
That actually makes a lot of sense, James. It's a little bit like reading a sentence with a missing letter. You can still guess the word, right? So we should try to guess the meaning instead of stopping completely.
Exactly, Jenny. You explained that perfectly. Your brain is very smart, and it can fill in small gaps if you let it relax and keep moving forward, instead of feeling stressed and stopping every time you hear something unfamiliar.
Okay, I love this tip, James. Now, can we talk about contractions? Because I think contractions are also a big reason why fast speech is confusing. Words like I'm, your, don't, and can't always trip me up.
Yes, contractions are definitely important, Jenny, and that's actually my second tip for today. Contractions are short forms of two words, and native speakers use them all the time in natural, fast conversation, especially in casual, everyday situations.
Right, and the problem is, in school, we usually learn the long form, like I am or I will, but in real life, people almost never say the long form when they are speaking quickly and casually.
That is a very good observation, Jenny. So my advice to our listeners is this. Please practice listening to contractions on purpose every single day so your ears become familiar with how short and quick they sound in real conversation.
Can you give us a small example, James? Maybe something funny so our listeners can remember it easily and have a little smile while they learn.
Sure, Jenny. For example, I would have gone becomes I would have gone. And in fast speech, it can even sound like I woulda gone. The first time I heard this, I was also very confused, just like you were with watcha.
Oh my goodness, woulda? That is a completely new word to my ears. English really loves to surprise us, doesn't it? I feel like every day I discover a new short version of a word I already knew.
Yes, English truly loves surprises, Jenny. But the good news is, once you learn these common patterns, they start to become familiar, and your brain will recognize them much faster the next time you hear them.
Okay, James, so far we have two tips. Listen for keywords instead of every word, and get familiar with contractions and connected speech. What is your third tip for today? I am ready to write it down.
My third tip is about practice speed, Jenny. I always tell my students to start by listening to content that is a little bit slow, like podcasts made for learners, and then slowly increase the speed as they become more comfortable.
That sounds like a very organized plan, James, which is exactly like you. But I have a question. How do we know when we are ready to move to faster content? I do not want to jump too fast or too slow.
That is a wonderful question, Jenny. A good sign is when you can listen to something once and understand about 80% of it without stopping the audio too many times. When you reach that level, it is time to try something a little bit faster.
Okay, that makes sense. I think I need to be more patient with myself because sometimes I try to watch a fast American movie without any preparation, and then I feel disappointed when I cannot understand anything at all.
I completely understand that feeling, Jenny, but please remember, learning to understand fast speech is like training for a race. You cannot run a marathon on your first day of training. You need to build your listening strength little by little every single day.
I really like that comparison, James. So instead of feeling bad about myself, I should just see it as training, like exercise for my ears and my brain. That actually makes me feel much more relaxed about the whole thing.
Exactly, Jenny. That is the perfect way to think about it. And speaking of training, my fourth tip is a technique called shadowing. Have you ever heard of shadowing before, Jenny?
I think I heard the word before, but I'm not completely sure what it means. Can you explain it to me and to our listeners, James? I promise I am listening very carefully right now.
Of course. Shadowing means you listen to a short sentence and then you repeat it out loud immediately, trying to copy the speed, the rhythm, and the pronunciation of the speaker as closely as you can.
Oh, that sounds like a fun game, but also a little bit difficult. Do we need to understand every word before we try shadowing, or can we just copy the sounds first?
Great question, Jenny. In the beginning, you do not need to understand everything. You can simply focus on copying the sounds and the rhythm. This trains your mouth and your ears to get used to the natural speed of English.
That's actually really encouraging, James, because sometimes I feel like I need to understand 100% before I can practice. But you're saying we can practice the sound first and the understanding will come later.
Yes, exactly, Jenny. And after you practice shadowing for a while, something amazing happens. Your ears start to recognize the patterns automatically because your mouth already knows how those fast, connected sounds feel when you say them.
Wow, I never thought about it that way, James. So speaking practice can actually help my listening skills too. That is such a helpful connection that I did not understand before today.
Yes, Jenny, listening and speaking are very closely connected. The more comfortable your mouth becomes with fast English, the more comfortable your ears become too, because they are working together as one system inside your brain.
Okay, I'm definitely going to try shadowing this week. Now, James, can I share something funny that happened to me? I think our listeners will enjoy this story, and maybe they will feel less alone after hearing it.
Yes, please, Jenny. I love your stories. They always make me laugh. And I think today's story will be a perfect example for our topic.
Okay, so last month I was in a coffee shop and the barista asked me a question really, really fast. I only understood one word, which was sugar, so I just said yes with a big smile, hoping for the best.
Oh no, Jenny. What happened next? I'm almost afraid to ask.
Well, it turns out she was asking me if I wanted sugar, milk, or both in my coffee, and because I just said yes to everything without understanding, I ended up with the sweetest, creamiest coffee I have ever had in my entire life.
Oh my goodness, Jenny. That is such a funny story. But it's also a very real example of what happens when fast speech catches us by surprise. I think many of our listeners have a similar story from their own experience.
I'm sure they do, James, and that experience actually taught me something important. Instead of guessing and smiling, sometimes it's much better to simply ask the person to repeat or to speak a little slower.
That is a perfect point, Jenny, and it leads us to my fifth tip. Do not be afraid to ask native speakers to repeat themselves or to speak more slowly. This is completely normal and most people are very happy to help you.
That is true, but I think many learners, including me sometimes, feel embarrassed to ask. We worry that people will think we're not good at English, so we just pretend to understand instead, which usually makes things worse.
I understand that fear, Jenny, but I want to tell everyone listening today, asking someone to repeat is not a weakness. It is actually a very smart communication skill. Even native speakers ask each other to repeat things sometimes.
That is a really good point, James. I think I need some simple phrases I can use in these situations, because sometimes my brain freezes and I cannot even remember how to ask politely in English.
Of course, Jenny. Let me share a few easy phrases with our listeners. You can say, "Sorry, could you say that again?" Or, "Sorry, could you speak a little slower, please?" These phrases are short, polite, and very easy to remember.
I really like those phrases, James. They are simple enough for beginners to use immediately. I think I will write them on a small card and keep them in my pocket, just in case I need them during the day.
That is such a great idea, Jenny. Preparation really does help reduce stress in these situations. Now, let's move to my sixth and final tip for today, which is about choosing the right listening materials for practice.
Yes, please, James. I always feel confused about what to watch or listen to because there are so many options, like movies, podcasts, YouTube videos, and songs. How do we choose the best one for practicing fast speech?
Great question, Jenny. My advice is to choose short videos or podcasts, maybe just 3 to 5 minutes long, and to watch or listen to them several times instead of watching many different long videos only one time each.
Oh, that is interesting because I usually do the opposite. I watch one long movie one time and then I feel exhausted and confused, and I never watch it again to review the parts I did not understand.
That is a very common mistake, Jenny, and I used to make it too when I was studying other languages. Repeating a short video many times helps your brain notice small details that you missed the first time, like connected speech and contractions.
That makes so much sense, James. It's like listening to your favorite song many times. The first time, you only understand a little bit, but after listening many times, you suddenly understand almost every single word.
Exactly, Jenny. That is a perfect example. Music, podcasts, and short videos all work the same way for your brain. Repetition is truly one of the most powerful tools for improving your listening skills.
Okay, James, I think it is time to review everything for our listeners because we shared so many helpful tips today, and I want to make sure everyone remembers them clearly before we finish the episode.
That is a wonderful idea, Jenny. Let's do a quick and simple review together. Tip number 1. Listen for key words, not every single word, and let your brain fill in the small gaps naturally.
Tip number 2. Get familiar with contractions and connected speech like gonna, wanna, and woulda, because these short forms appear constantly in real, natural conversation.
Tip number 3. Start with slightly slower content and gradually increase the speed as your listening skills naturally improve over time, just like training for a race, step by step.
Tip number 4. Try shadowing, which means listening and repeating immediately to train both your ears and your mouth to feel comfortable with fast, natural English rhythm.
Tip number 5. Do not be afraid to ask people to repeat or slow down. This is a smart skill, not a weakness, and most people are happy to help you communicate better.
And tip number 6. Choose short videos or podcasts and repeat them many times instead of watching many long videos only once, because repetition truly helps your brain notice small important details.
Wonderful summary, Jenny. I think our listeners now have 6 very practical tools they can start using today, even if they are still at a beginner level like A1 or A2.
I agree, James, and I also feel much better about my own listening struggles after talking about this today. It helps to know that even experienced learners and even native speakers sometimes deal with similar communication challenges.
That is such an important message, Jenny. Learning a language is a journey, not a race, and every small step forward, even a tiny one, is something worth celebrating along the way.
Before we finish, James, should we give our listeners a small homework challenge? I think a simple task will help them practice these tips right away, instead of just listening and forgetting everything tomorrow.
Yes, great idea, Jenny. Here's your homework, everyone, listening today. Choose one short video, maybe 2 to 3 minutes long, and listen to it 5 times this week, trying our tips about keywords and connected speech.
And here is my homework challenge, too. The next time someone speaks too fast for you, practice saying, "Sorry, could you say that again, please?" instead of just smiling and pretending to understand, like I did with my coffee order.
That is a perfect challenge, Jenny, and I'm sure it will help many of our listeners feel more confident in real conversations very soon.
Thank you so much for listening to us today, everyone. We really hope these tips make understanding fast English feel a little bit easier and a lot less stressful for all of you.
Yes, thank you all for spending this time with us today. Remember, every native speaker was once a beginner too,